All right, my name is Dr. Jim Monsieur, and I'm a sports psychologist. And one of the things I want to start with as we start talking about using mental skills for golf is what skills do you need to play any sport really well? Now, I want you to think about that and then tell me what you think. And I'm going to write these down. So what do you think?
A strong mental game.
A strong mental game. Okay. Ooh. Okay, good. What else?
Coordination.
Coordination. Good. How about another one?
Would athleticism be the same?
I think that's a pretty good one anyway. So you need to be athletic. Okay. Any others?
Strength.
Strength. Good. All right. Any athlete, what else do they need?
Fit. Like.
Be fit?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So fitness. That's good. What else?
Self-control.
Self-control. Hey, that's a good one. What does that mean?
Mentally cautious. Or,
Yeah.
So like if you
Don't
think
get
about...
angry like so easily.
Okay. That's
Take
good.
it out on other people.
Yeah, boy, I tell you what happens if that happens.
Someone gets hurt.
Someone gets hurt, or at the very least, the person that loses self-control ends up getting into trouble, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. All right, any other thoughts about what does it take to play any sport really well?
It takes a pretty good deal of focus.
Focus, good. Yeah. Any other thoughts? This is a good list. Now, I'll tell you what, let's take a look, because I was thinking about this as well, and I came up with 6 things that I think any athlete needs to play any sport well. I think that in order for athletes to play any sport really well, they have to have physical skills, and that includes strength and speed. You identified coordination, athleticism. You said strength specifically. Now, who helps the athlete develop these?
Coach.
A coach.
Parents.
Parents, absolutely. How about, have you ever worked with an athletic trainer? They work with this as well. So so y'all cover that pretty well. Technical skills. So for golf, things like putting, driving, using the irons, your short game is what they call that often. Now, who helps the athlete develop these skills?
Their practice.
Yeah,
time.
but with who?
Like a club professional? Or
A club pro, a teaching pro, absolutely. A coach. So they help with the development of those skills. And then I thought about tactical skills. Now, in golf, there's this thing called course management. And I don't know if y'all are familiar with that or not, but basically what it means is that you look at the course and how it's laid out, how the holes are laid out and all of that, and you figure out what's the best place to shoot for in order to get your lowest score. All right? It also can include when things don't go as planned, how do you minimize problems? So who works with the athlete to help them develop that skill or those skills?
somebody like you?
They can work with a sports psychologist on their mental game, because that's certainly involved. But also, what about the golf pro? What about the coach? All right, so they can work with them. Now, I think any athlete that's going to be really good at what they do also needs to really be a hard worker. And that means they practice a lot, they have put in a lot of good effort. And who's responsible for this?
Individual.
The athlete themselves, that's right. And then I think you need good coaching. I mean, we've talked a little bit about that earlier, but good coaching, you really need to have a coach that's knowledgeable. You need a coach that's a good teacher, someone that communicates really well. And that's really up to the coach themselves, right? And then we've got, last but not least, mental skills. And this is where athletes learn how to be relaxed when they need to be. They learn to be confident or more confident. And they can also learn how to focus, which was talked about also. And then also learning how to get the strong mental game, which was brought up earlier. So I think that these are 6 general categories that really can help any athlete in any sport become really good. Now, sports psychology, the way you learn mental skills, basically works with athletes to help them get better through the use of mental skills. Now, I have a lot of people, parents, coaches, athletes themselves, that get they're not sure what to make of this second word, psychology. All right. Oftentimes, when they think of psychology or psychologists, they think of people that are having problems like depression, or they're really nervous or something like that. And they go to a psychologist to get help with those problems. And I see people that do that, that do have those kind of problems. And in fact, I work with athletes that have those kind of problems. But for the most part, I have athletes that come and see me that are already doing pretty well and want to do even better by including mental skills into what they're already doing. Now, there's a saying I really like that kind of speaks to this, and it is, you don't have to be sick to get better. You know who said it?
Saban.
Saban was the first person to say it that I heard it from. I understand it's been attributed to other people as well, but he's the one I heard. And you've heard of Coach Saban, right? I figured. All right, for today we're going to talk about 2 mental skills. The first one is control. More specifically, figuring out what you can control and what you can't control. And then we're going to talk about self-talk, and that's that internal dialogue that we all have. All right? Now, I want you to think about each of these areas, and I want you to tell me, what do you have control over and what do you not have control over? So, do you have control over your fitness level? Yeah, absolutely. You're the one that determines how much work you put in when you're working with an athletic trainer or your coach. You're the one that runs. You're the one that does the reps, those kind of things. Do you have control over a bad bounce? No. Now you have control over what you do in response to the bad bounce, right? But you don't have control over the bad bounce happening. Do you have control over your technique? You bet. You put in the work on the driving range, the putting green, you do the work with your wedge and your irons, and you're the one that puts in the work along with the work you do with the golf pro or your coach. How about the weather? Do you have control over the weather? Okay. Do you have control over how you respond to it though? So for instance, what happens to greens when they get wet?
Does it bounce as much, or does it roll?
It slows down a lot and it mutes the bounces. That's right. Now you have to take that into account. Also, how do you take into account the wind? Let's say you got a really strong left to right wind.
You play it lower and play it away from the wind.
So the weather influences how you play, but you can't control it. All right, good. Your plan for the round, do you have control over that? Yeah. You're the one that figures out, okay, where am I going to shoot it? What am I going to use? What's a realistic score for me? Those kind of things. How about your opponent's game? You have any control over that? Zip. No control at all. Do you have control over your next shot? Yes. You're the one that chooses the club. You're the one that figures out how you're going to account for the weather, those kind of things. You absolutely do. Do you have control over your pre-round preparation? Yeah, you're the one that's out there on the driving range or the putting green. You're the one that may use mental skills ahead of time to try to figure out how to get or try to get to where you need to be in order to play your best. Absolutely. How about, do you have control over comments by your opponent? No. Now, I have a lot of athletes that come in and talk to me about somebody said something to me and it really made me do stuff. I'm just, didn't have control. And my next comment is, and how can you stop them from saying what they're saying? And their response is, I don't guess I can. They can say anything they want. Now, you choose how you react, right? And I know athletes that will specifically go out of their way to say things to people just to get them off their game. You may have seen that in some recent basketball games and things like that. Do you have control over your self-talk? Yeah, you have control over what you say to yourself, and we're going to talk more about that in a minute. Do you have control over what you pay attention to? Yeah, and you'll in fact see that we can use self-talk to help with that. Do you have control over your last shot? No, you don't have any control over that. As soon as you finish your swing, it's etched in stone. All right, now you have control over how you respond to what happens. And in fact, we're going to talk when we're out on at the driving range. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about a routine that you can use in order to kind of make the transition from the last shot to your next shot, because that next shot's the more important one. All right? Do you have control over what a referee does or an official? No. I know a lot of people, though, that blame a lot of bad things on what the ref did or the official did. And they really don't have any control over that at all. How about effort? Yes, lots of control. In fact, that's the thing you have probably the most control over. And then finally, do you have any control over the group ahead of you? No. You can complain, you can go talk to the marshal, you can do all of that, but that's all you can do. Now, you can control what you do while you wait to go play if they're playing slow. So good. And self-talk basically is what we say to ourselves. Now, it can be something instructive like turn left here. Or if you get called to the principal's office, it can be something like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble, but it's not something you want to say out loud. Or it can be something you're not ready to say out loud, like, I like Becky. So it can be any of those things, and plus a whole bunch of other things. Now, it can help your golf game if it is encouraging, something like, oh, you can make this putt. Or if it's instructive, that green has got serious slope on it, so I need to hit it above the hole so the slope will take it down to the hole. Or realistic. It's about 250 yards to the green and there's a sand trap at 175. With a 3-wood, I can go about 180 if it's dead solid perfect. I better lay up. Now, it can hurt your golf game if it's mean. That was a dumb shot. You're stupid. Or predicts a negative future. I never make these kinds of shots. Or if it directs your attention to things that aren't important to what you're doing. Can you imagine something like this? I wonder if we're going to have roast tonight. All right, I'm thinking your golf shot's not going to be so good. All right, let's talk a little bit about mean self-talk. How many of y'all would like to hang around somebody that kept calling you names like idiot, stupid, or dumb all the time? Probably not very much. I wouldn't either. I wouldn't blame you. So I don't understand why you would say that stuff to yourself. Can you understand how it might help? Yeah, I don't know either. Okay, so we've agreed on that. Now, negative predictions. They interfere with the shot by directing your attention to something that you don't want to have happen. All right, so for instance, I never hit my sand shots close to the hole. Well, guess what? You're probably not going to hit this one close to the hole either because you're paying attention to an area away from the hole. All right? Now, to kind of drive this point home a little further, don't think of a tiger. What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Tiger Woods?
Yeah, there you go. Good. At least you kept it in golf. That's good. And most people will think of Tiger Woods or a tiger. All right? And a phrase that I use a lot, one of my favorite phrases is, the body follows the mind. So if you think about where you don't want to hit the ball, it's more likely to happen because you're paying attention to that area. All right? So we turn to a notion called productive self-talk. A more helpful way to use your self-talk is to identify what you want to do. All right? So for an example, imagine that there's a hole, a par 3, with a pretty generous green, but right in front of it there's a lake. All right? A lot of people will think to themselves, don't hit it in the water. Right, absolutely. So guess what? All right, you're telling yourself what you don't want to have happen again. So a more productive way of saying this would be, hit the green instead of don't hit the water. Now that takes